Welcome back to the Tide Gear Painter. This is Mike, and happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody is doing well today. Today I want to talk to you about how Obscure is to Obscure 2.0. I've already made this video and talked about this, but so many things have released. So much has changed over the past 2 years since I've made that video, so it's a good time to talk about it again. So we're going to see what these companies are doing, what they're working on, then we're going to discuss some different eras of Transformers and get into how Obscure is too obscure, what companies are going to be doing what, and if you're into, say, Micromasters, you might not like what I had to say in this video, but let's get into talking about all of this and more coming up. First thing I want to talk about is the companies. What are these companies doing? And Takara is supposed to be the big dog. I guess they're stepping down, stepping aside. They're just going to let everybody else take care of everything else. And they're just going to keep remaking Optimus Primes and doing them in different sizes and scales and reissuing stuff they've already made. It seems to be what MPG is for the most part. They're going to be going obscure in a different direction. They're doing T-Spark and all those kinds of things. Well, as we get into this, you're going to see they're not planning on doing Headmaster stuff. They're not planning on doing some of these other things. They're trying to reignite with main characters. Like, if it's a main character, they'll do something with it. But when it comes to, say, Beast Wars, I think Rat Trap might be the end of it with Takara and Beast Wars. I might be wrong on that, but it really does seem like this Rat Trap is like, yeah, we're done. We'll just tap out. We'll let other companies take care of them. But with it, at least, it's nice that they're going to give us this figure. So on surface level, you'd say, well, it's kind of obscure to do a Power Master Optimus Prime, a Super Jinrai, and all of that they're doing, and then the repaints of all of this. That is, in a way, a bit on the obscure side, but they're not going deeper into Target Masters, Power Masters, and all the things that we're about to talk about in this video. They have no plans that I see to make those, and yeah, T-Spark is, I don't even know how to describe it 100%, but it's a bit of stylized takes on main characters. Now, with Takara becoming almost a non-factor, when it comes to more or less G1 collectors, you got to look around. Okay, what else can we collect for Masterpiece if this is all that's going on? We hear there's going to be a Prime 4.0. Okay, well, in all reality, that's not obscure at all. We hear they might do a Jazz. Well, they need to, really. They do need to do a Jazz. But I have 3 Jazzes, and they'd all work fine. Any of them be great. And so I'm not too excited about a 4th Jazz. And as for, like, Fans Toys putting out their Optimus Prime. So Fans Toys is kind of taken over as the big dog. They are literally the measuring stick that most people use when they compare. It used to be that they would compare to Takara. And, like, how does this match up to Takara? Now, I will still say, Takara's got some releases that I like better, like their Hoist, and there are some Takaras I like better, but for the most part, Fans Toys wins about 85% of the time. Their figure is my favorite figure. Now, you could argue what best is based on a whole list of different metrics, but they usually are the best, or they have the best paint, the sculpt looks great. The transformation's usually not the best. It's usually one of the worst transformations out there, aside from X-Transbots likes to compete in the worst transformation department. But even Fans Toys doesn't want to go too obscure. See, they're really kind of sticking to the Season 1, 2, and 3. I don't see them doing anything Season 4, except they're getting into Headmasters. But see, the weird thing about the Headmaster situation is we don't have one yet. It seems like it's they announce it when it was just a drawing on a napkin for the most part, and then nothing's happened since then. There's been zero movement, nearly a year, zero movement. Maybe it's over a year and zero movement on this project. But they keep putting other projects like Galvatron. The Sovereign 2.0 goes ahead of something like this. And I don't view Headmasters at all as obscure. At this point in collecting, at this point in what we've seen Hasbro dish out a lot of those figures, and for that, there's only one company that's really done a true masterpiece scale. I know we've seen some Fans Project or something along those lines that are smaller. They're closer to Chug. But one company, really, Make Toys is really the only one that has done it. And then, of course, Yes Model was the knockoff of it. And with that, we're waiting for Fans Toys to do theirs. But then they're giving us the same characters we already have. So how obscure are they going to go? How deep are they going to get into this? Are they going to do Headmaster Juniors? I mean, 10 years from now, we might not see even all 4 of these done. Which is where our good friends at X-Transbots step in. Now, X-Transbots is stepping into some obscure figures. We're getting a lot that's going on. They're going to be making a Minerva, and they're making a Misfire, and they've done most of the Omnibots. And I'm really pleased with the fact that they've done the Omnibots. I think that they're doing... It's almost like they're finding that niche, and more of their figures that come out are more obscure. Or let's just take away the term obscure and say characters that have not been made by any other company in the Masterpiece scale before. And probably the only ones that are going to make them. I mean, probably the only ones going to make, like, say, a Punch Counterpunch. Now, I heard from Fans Toys, or a rumor about Fans Toys, that they're going to make everything in the G1 continuity. I actually believe everything in the G1 US cartoon continuity. Because they're not really making anything that was made as a toy, but never put in the cartoon. And they haven't touched anything yet so much from Season 4 aside from a Headmaster. But when you start looking at this, they could do all of this. Like if they make one Headmaster, it opens up to the whole space of everything in that era. Why not do a Punch Counterpunch? Why are you letting X-Transbots get away with this, but you got to put down a 2.0 Sovereign? I mean, I've already gone through that. I've already made that video, but it seems like Fans Toys doesn't want to get this obscure. They don't want to go this obscure. But let's say they made a Punch Counterpunch themselves, or they made a Misfire themselves. They would sell very well. But first of all, you've got the Fans Toys fanboys that would buy anything Fans Toys make. Number one. Number two, if you start satisfying some of these needs, some of these characters and figures that nobody else has, it would still sell very well. But the reality is they still haven't delivered on all of Season 1, 2, and 3 yet. So if they haven't delivered on that, why would they start on Season 4? There's a lot of questions about that. And with all of that, they've already stepped foot into it. But what about the rest of the stuff? What about Target Masters? So before I go any further, I got to talk about Fans Hobby. And so the obscure discussion, the hitting all the different eras, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I think Fans Hobby is living deeper in this space than even X-Transbots. They are literally making, everything they're making is more or less an obscure item. And it's really good that they're doing it. Not that I buy any of it. I got a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I don't buy any of it. The only thing I bought was the G.I. Joe Skyhawk. And with that, I liked it. I like it. It's good. And a lot of this stuff here looks amazing. But it's from eras I'm not interested in or characters I'm not interested in. And this is partially what scares off other companies from stepping foot into this space. The space where Fans Hobby lives, making stuff nobody else makes. They live in this space. But, I mean, right here, I just took these screenshots. A lot of the stuff sold out. A lot of stuff sells out. So it's not like there's not a market for it. There's definitely a market for it. There are definitely people that are excited for this stuff. They pay their hard-earned money to buy this stuff, and they enjoy it. Now, I've heard that, like, their Minerva and a few other things, I've had some QC issues. I don't even know exactly what. I don't have them. I didn't review them, and I really didn't pay too close attention. Like, I thought about it for a day or two, and then I kind of forgot what the QC was on it. But with it, it's still awesome that these are here, and I'm sure if you handle them properly, they'll be okay. The transformations don't seem to be too complex, actually. Seem relatively simple, and that's a good thing. But with all of this, if they put those monster bots back out, I would definitely be into getting them. Really, I would buy some more of this Fans Hobby stuff. Well, I'm actually going to buy more of the Joe stuff. Yeah, look at that. They're making a AWE Striker. They can't call it AWE Striker. Look at the bottom corner there. They are making that too. So they're doing a whole lot. They got their hands in some G.I. Joe classified scale style of vehicles. Whole lot of fun. I'll probably be in on all those. Then this MMC Drift figure. I gotta admit that this thing, it looks cool. And I would classify it obscure. Some people would say, no, that's not obscure. That's pretty mainline this day and age. So I can kind of see both angles on that. But pre-sold out at Show Z Store. And that's kind of my first go-to to check on it. And also the easiest way to find pictures. Because you can type in the characters' names. Most of the other distributors, they won't put in the first party name. They won't put the actual name Drift. They'll give it only the third party name. which I think they call this one Stray, first edition. But anyhow, this is a cool looking figure, and MMC's been known for going a little bit obscure, but then they reel it back in, working on their Defensor. So they kind of do G1 takes, then they'll throw out an offshoot of something else, some other era, and that's actually pretty good. It's pretty good. So they make stuff for pretty much everybody. Now, over the years, we've seen different eras of Transformers. I can't even keep up with all of it, like Armada, and then the live-action movie stuff that's out there, and all the stuff that's going on. And all these different eras deserve some level of representation, but some might be considered a little bit too obscure. Now, you do have, of course, Fans Hobby seem to touch on all of it, and then you have other companies wanting to step in. I think Toy World did a few things, and then you're seeing like 3-0 making non-transforming figures and all of that. But how obscure is too obscure when they kind of consider like Rise of the Beast, the live action movies, as the hot thing right now, the hot commodity right now, even though maybe not all the collectors do. All right, we're going to get into this. This is really the heart and meat of this. Now, Transformers Land is the best resource for G1. So if you like G1 Transformers and you want to just kind of see what parts go with it, and you just want to see what groupings there are, you're going to see it here, but I'm going to link Transformers Land down below. Predaking, a standard G1 Predaking, seems to be something that nobody wants to do. I do not know why. Every time a Predaking comes out, it's got to be stylized or ultra stylized. The closest we've got to a G1 Predaking, in my opinion, is what Hasbro's done. Hasbro made a Titan, which is still too small, and there are upgrade kits and stuff. You could make it the same size, but I mean, spending $300 for what I paid 50 something for mine, so $300 on a $50 figure seems kind of strange. We get into stuff like the Pretenders, Monstructor. So yeah, Monstructor was one that I didn't even know about until I was an adult. So as a kid, didn't know about it. Then I kind of found out about it, and it's very expensive to get. And I don't even view it, in my opinion, as a U.S. release, but it may have been released in U.S. Always felt like once I first found out about this, it was like a Japanese-only release. But a lot of people do have it in the U.S., so maybe it was released in the U.S. It is one that would be fun to get maybe a retro version of it or something along those lines. And I really do think this is something that should be tackled at the Legends scale. But I don't see a Masterpiece Monstructor coming anytime soon. And Fans Project made one, but it's not really Masterpiece, really. Okay, getting into Computron, another one that it just seems like we're not going to get a good one. We did get, I don't know, it wasn't Jin Bao. It was Warbotron. So the Warbotron made one. It was extremely stylized, and it seems like no one else is really wanting to take it on in Super G1 here. I think Bingo Toys is the one that's making the Masterpiece one. I'm going to be in on it, but it is still a little bit on the stylized side, but G1 enough to satisfy the G1ers, and stylized enough to satisfy those that want to move on into something a little bit different. But see, I don't view this as obscure, but I haven't heard Fans, Toys R Us, Transbots, or any of them wanting to tackle this one. Also, Terracons. Now, we have seen some, and there have been some quote-unquote Masterpiece versions, but they're not up into the larger scales. I think they're 15 or 16 inch. That's, in my opinion, not big enough to be a Masterpiece scale combiner this day and age. I think we need to get into over 18 inches to count. And with that, I think it was Unique Toys that made one, and I think there was another one out there, but still with it, it's something that isn't being tackled because why? It is too obscure. Autobot clones, not clowns, clones. These haven't been tackled yet that I know of. And the weird thing is, so the Autobot ones, the Fast Lane and Cloudbreaker, those don't really mean anything to me. I didn't have them as a kid, and as an adult, I think they're just kind of plain, not that much fun. The Wingspan and Pounce, I think, are awesome, and I haven't seen a third-party Masterpiece representation of these yet. I think there might have been one of the third-party companies that made them in a sort of a chug scale, but I can't even think of that off the top of my head. But I haven't seen a true Masterpiece one of these, and definitely not from one of the bigger players. And of course, bigger players are avoiding them. Deluxe vehicles, we have seen Roadbuster and Whirl in third party, but again, I don't think they were quite big enough to be counted as Masterpiece, and definitely not G1. MMC tackled them, but They weren't really very G1-esque. They were very on the stylized side of things, which for these characters, I guess it's okay to get away with. But again, it's another figure that hasn't been revisited in, well, like 7 years, something along those lines. But cool characters, cool figures, and if you had either of these back in the day as a kid, having a Masterpiece representation that is even better than the vintage one is something you probably always wanted. Next up, we've got the Duocons. Now, I might be wrong on this, but I'm not even sure if Fans Hobbies even tackled these yet. And, well, I'm kind of limited on what I have seen from Fans Hobbies. But this is another thing. Is it too obscure? How obscure is too obscure? Battletrap flywheels. Hasbro made them, and they sold okay. I think they're actually going for a premium on the secondary market now because it's really all you can get to get modern representations of these. And I don't think a lot of people had a lot of connection to these. Like, these weren't the greatest figures back in the day. I have them simply because they came in lots. And that's how I knew what they were when they made them. And when I saw what Hasbro was doing with them, I thought, wow, that's impressive. But I have the Hasbro ones now, and I'm happy with it. And that's how I collect Hasbro. If I don't think any other company's going to make it Masterpiece, I shell out whatever I need to get the Hasbro one. Same thing with Jump Starters. The whole gimmick of Jump Starters is the fact that they do convert. Now, another third-party company made it, which they were like, talking about obscure. It's an obscure third-party company. I don't remember their name. And they made these, and they're chug. So it was so long ago that's when third-party was still making figures to match Hasbro, and so you could blend the third-party figures in with Hasbro instead of the true Masterpiece scale. They jumped on that bandwagon down the road. But as you can see with these, the gimmick is that they flip up and jump on their feet, and a Masterpiece one wouldn't do that. Not even the modern Hasbro ones do that. So it kind of loses what it had, the little bit of charm it had back in the day, but the modern ones look so much better, especially the Hasbro ones. And Hasbro ones go for a lot of money now. So next up we get into the Micromasters, and I have to say that this was running along on the craze of the Micro Machines. Now, I was, I guess, too old to like Micro Machines when they came out, so I didn't get into Micro Machines at all. When it comes to the Micromasters, I was not into it at all. And it's the fact that I didn't care for Micro Machines. They had these things that were called Matchbox cars. They were 1/64. My neighbor, he was like a couple years younger than me. He was into the Micromasters, and I kept asking him why. And he was more about the base set, bases, the play sets, and how you can have on just top of his dresser a whole world going on. And he was fascinated with that. And I just kind of thought it looked like a bunch of clutter. It looked, not that any kid's room wasn't covered in clutter that day, and in the 80s. It was all kinds of stuff back then, but it did look like just a lot of clutter to me. With the Micromasters, so I do have some somewhere in a bag, but would I buy Masterpiece versions of these? Not at all. I just, there's no interest from someone like me to buy these. There is a market. Some people would be excited for it, and I'm not going to deny that, but it's not me. We get into cassettes. A lot of cassettes have been done. You get into the obscure cassettes and the Japanese only releases and stuff, but like even with the Squawk Talk, Slam Dance and Squawk Box, I think KFC's already tackled those, if I'm not mistaken. And I know Dr. Wu's already tackled them, but those are smaller. But will we see it in the likes of MMC going that route? Because I'd love MMC to do it. Because they're full-size cassettes. And so in my mind, that's kind of what we need, full-size versions of these. Also, I'd love to see a Fans Toys take on them. Like, why not? Why is Fans Toys stopping? Why is Fans Toys not making these? Because it's too obscure for Fans Toys. Now, we've gotten Omnibots, but haven't seen or heard anything about Power Dashers. Hasbro's made these. And I'm going to sing Hasbro praises. I haven't seen any third party making these. And these are obscure, but they're Melloways. I got to say, they're Melloway figures that I think almost all kids had. Because why would you pass up free figures or close to free figures? You just butcher up your packaging, send in some points, and you get this. So this is something that I think would resonate with more people than these companies understand. And I would be in on all of these. Now, do I like Power Dashers as much as Omnibots? No. I don't think I had many of these as a kid. And if I did, I don't know. I think I got them confused with GoBots. But I'd still buy them in a Masterpiece range. Now we get into Pretenders, and Pretenders had a strange kind of thing going on with them where they had a shell, and then inside was another Transformer or something going on inside of it. And I did not like the gimmick at all. Some of these, like Legend up top there, goes for a lot of money. Some are still relatively affordable. Some are expensive. And I can't really say I understand which ones are expensive. And I'm not going to be going after collecting these in the G1 range. Now, if we saw Masterpiece versions of them, I don't think they would do a shell. I don't think you'd get a 10-inch, 12-inch, 10-inch shell and then a figure inside. This is a gimmick. And with that, you kind of have to either A, do what Hasbro did, which you have the bot sort of looks like the Pretender shell, and then the alt mode sort of looks like the alt mode of the figure inside. That's how they went with it. It's the route they went, the route that they went with it. And then we've got stuff like Skyhammer, so you have vehicles that go along with this. There was quite a bit to the Pretenders. I've seen some people's collection videos where they have all of the Pretender stuff, and that just shocks me how much there was. But what shocks me even more, because looking at it in this way, you don't see how much space a whole full complete set of Pretenders takes up. You will not see Fans Toys coming out at TFCon LA and saying, we're going to do some Pretenders. They're not doing that. It's not going to happen. These are Sparkbots and Firecons, which I'm not going to pretend I know much about these. I actually think I have the Fizzle figure, but that's it. That's all I think I've got. But I'll probably have more mixed in, like in a bag of stuff. I don't even know what I've got. But with them, I think this is kind of like Sparker. Like you just have a built-in cigarette lighter inside your toy. But then again, I still don't know 100%. Throttlebots were more or less, although they look like existing characters we have, and Goldbug is Bumblebee, these are ones that you kind of pull back, kind of like the Runabout and Runamuck. Now, Runabout and Runamuck are not on here because of the fact that they've already been made in Masterpiece, so they don't really need to be addressed. But will these get made by X-Transbots? I doubt it. I don't think there's a big enough following for these for them to get made, but it doesn't. I don't think that they're too obscure for Fans Hobby to touch. Fans Hobby could get into the realm if they wanted to. Triggerbots and Triggercons, another one that I don't have a whole lot of these, but they're obscure, too obscure for a lot of companies to take on. And I'm not going to lie, I'm betting somebody somewhere in the third-party realm has made these, but I don't think they've been made for the Masterpiece scale. But this is, all these figures could possibly get made, but is there really any connection? Does anybody truly have connection to these characters? And without connection to the characters, is there somebody willing to spend $60 to $100 a piece on these? So let me know what you think about this obscurity. How obscure is too obscure? What out there is there that's never going to get made? What would you like to see get made that probably will never get made? And I mostly even just looked at the G1 continuity of this. There are all the different eras that might not see a full representation ever. And G1, I don't even think we'll see a full representation of G1. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and Tiberium Hanger out.